So, welcome to my kitchen. I was going to hold a posament class that was supposed to be recorded. Then I am a technological klutz, so that was never recorded. So now I am doing an extra film about posaments to make up for it. So, what is posament? And how was it used during the Viking Age? Well, to be exact, we actually doesn't know more than posament has been found in Viking graves in Birka. It is made from metal wire, both thrown whole wire and spun wire. It's made in knots and the material, the archaeological material, is actually very small. Out of the around 1,000 graves, plus add some, that has been excavated at Birka, only 45 graves have contained posaments. So that is a very small archaeological material to actually say something about it. What we do know though is that it seems that the Vikings have been using these as some kind of belt trimmings, possibly headgear decorations, purses decorations, possibly also for outer garments. It's very hard to say something about where exactly, because when something has been in a grave for over 1,000 years, it tends to move a little bit. You can't exactly say that it's been here. It's like it's been here-ish. So what we can say is we have found these nut wires decorations around the head area, around the hip area, and also around the chest area of the graves, of the skeletons. And they are made out of silver and gold, both spun wire and whole thread wire. And I'm going to show you some pictures of it.
So here we have one piece of posaments, and this is a so-called 8-loop posament. And the next picture is a loop in loop. Here you can see it attached to some kind of fabric, and this is silk fabric. Most of the posaments were attached to silk fabric. And the next picture is one of my absolute favorites. This is a specimen that is attached to Chinese silk brocade. The Chinese silk brocade in this picture is from the 8th century Tang dynasty, and it has some way managed to travel from China during the 8th century and ended up in a grave in Birka around year 1000. My imagination is rushing with stories about this, but the only thing we can see here is that, well, it has posaments attached to it, and it has been used as decoration on some kind of garment or headgear. The next picture and the last picture with spun wire posament is a knife sheath, and again, well, they did use it on items that they didn't have to wash. So this is a knife sheath with posaments. And then as the last picture, this is the whole thread wire. And yes, this is exactly how uneven they actually look. This is a technique I am not completely familiar with yet. I am learning. So I am still doing the spun wire, which is a little bit more easy to work with than the whole thread, since the whole thread is a little bit more hard. So Well, that is enough with the pictures, I think.
And we're actually not here today to just listen about what posaments are. We are also here to learn how to do it. Before we get into that, I want to show you a little bit how they actually look when you make them. They're a little bit different. I use spun wire that is 0.3 millimeters. That is really thin. Again, the makeup thing to make it focus. It is really thin. But actually 0.3 millimeters is too thick for the original. The original should be around 0.25. You can get 0.25 if you look hard. It's a little bit harder to find though in Sweden. So I usually use 0.3. It's the most common thinner thread that you can get. I usually use 7% silver. The silver content in the originals are of course much higher, but for me to be able to buy that is too pricey for me, so I use the one that we use in the Samic the Samic bracelets. And as a comparison, you might say, okay, so what is the difference in size? Well, when you use 0.3 millimeters, you get a little piece that gets this. This is how big it is. When you use this is a version of the posaments, and just for the heck of it, just to look at it, I ordered 0.6 millimeters, the double size. This is how big it turned out. It's massive compared to this tiny little piece that you get when you use the original size. So this is what I usually say when I'm holding these classes. If you want to be historical accurate, and I'd say that with this, as historical accurate as you can be, and use the tiny thread, you get these little tiny things, and they're really delicate, and I think they're really pretty. You get something that looks like this. You get a little bit of trimming. You get something that looks like this on a hat. This is my little braided hat, or something like this. This is my Birka Kiev very anachronistic version. I think it's pretty. I think it's dainty. I like it. But if you want to go anachronistic and big and blingy, by all means, buy the bigger one. This will give you more show off. This will be big. But remember, this is metal. So if you wash your garment, this will go dark, this will go dull. So you need to put it on something that is easy to be removed, or you put it on belts and purses or headgear. Let's see if there's something I have forgotten before we throw ourselves into actually making the thing. No, I think that is all. Let's begin. So, how to do posament? What I am trying to show you how to do this time is this little guy. I'm gonna do the makeup version. You keep your hand behind it. So let's begin. And I'm working with a polyester thread because this is a good learning rope. You can knot it and unknot it time and time again without it getting hurt. Tentrad that you use for when you are making the real thing is a little bit more delicate. It doesn't like you to hurt its feelings, and when you have tightened the knot, it kind of wants to stay there. It is metal after all, so even if it's very pliable, I'm gonna show you here a little bit longer. This is how it looks, and it's, again, let's see if I can make it focus. Yeah, I have some focus. It's very pliable, and it's almost like a fabric thread, but you can see it kind of wants to hold its shape. It is pewter and silver, and when you have tightened the knot, it will stay there. So when you are learning, use polyester rope like this, shoelace, something like a cotton rope, thinner cotton rope, or something cheap, and something that you can knot and unknot without it fraying too much. It makes life so much easier. Okay, over to the knot. I'm gonna do like this, and remember now that I am left-handed, so if you are watching this and you're right-handed, this might be a little bit problem for you. But we're gonna start with making a pretzel. So keeping both ropes flat, because we want something that looks like this. We want it flat and both rope next to each other. We're making a loop. And we make sure that this loop goes like this. So now you see that this rope goes under this rope. And then you just lift off this. And I'm just gonna adjust it a little bit because I want to have enough material. You want to keep this as much as the top material as possible. So there you have your pretzel. One is under, one is over. You have 3 holes, and this goes over there and over there. Pinch it down so it doesn't move. This one goes under that one to cross them. And now it's mostly easiest to work with one thread at a time. So you take this one and you go down in the hole, you go up in the hole, and you go down in the hole. Down in the hole, up in the hole, and down in the hole. This is one way to remember it. You can also remember it with over, under, over, over, under, over, and then you end with under. Now, if we now turn it around, you will see that you have the first knot like this. And you're going to tighten it from the back. This is your top. And you're going to tighten it from this cross. When you're working with metal wire, it's very important that you tighten it in steps. Remember that your wire will want to stay tighten as well as soon as it is tightened. So that's why it's easiest to tighten it in steps. You just tighten it in steps. Starts with your inner thread. And you tighten a little bit more. You want to tighten nice. And remember that the outer thread always goes out and your inner thread is always on the inside of the knot. So don't cross them. Again, flat and tight. And do not tighten it so it bends. And you have your first knot. Now we're going to do the same thing again at the side of this. Make a loop. This goes over. Take your end. This goes under, this goes over. You have 3 holes. So, again, it's easier to start with 1. And since this goes over here, you go under, down in the hole, up in the hole, and down in the hole. Sorry if my hands are in the way. So let's do that again with the outer one. You go under, over this one, under this one, and over this one. Over, under, over. I'm working with a little bit shorter material here, so I'm gonna just carefully gather it together so it will be easier for you to see. There. And you see you have the same. This is your top. But the second one that you are going to tighten, the first one we tighten from here, right? But the second one needs to be tightened from here so you can get close to this one. And that means you need to tighten this loop first, then you need to tighten that loop, and last one this one. So what you do is you gather all the material close to this one, and then you find what rope you need to tighten this one with, which is, you see here, which is this one. So you tighten it, and again you can do this in little steps, but you need actually to tighten this rather close, and then you tighten this one. And you can't tighten this one until you have tightened this one, because if the whole knot is tight, it will stay this way when you are working with the metal material. So what you do now is you tighten this one, make sure it stays flat, and again you can adjust a little, and you wiggle it around. And there you have it. Now, and you tighten the last piece there. And again, when you're working with the metal wire, you need to be really, really delicate with the tightening, because otherwise you risk having a knot that is curved and not happy. And you want your knots to be happy. Now we're going to do the same on this side. Make a loop. And you always make the loop inwards. And when I say inwards, I mean you're gonna bend this. This is your bottom. And you always make the loop like this. And fold over. You have your new pretzel. This goes under, this goes over. This goes over, that means this is the one you move. And you start with taking it under there. Sorry, I'm going to correct this a little bit so you can see. Under there. Under there. And then you have down in the hole, up in the hole, down in the hole, down in the hole, up in the hole, down in the hole. And you locked your knot. Let the other one follow under, over, under, over, under. There. And you tighten it. And that means you're gonna tighten it in steps. And we're gonna pull everything close down. So we have everything as close down to this one as possible. And then we tighten this. And remember, when you're working with polyester rope or cotton rope, yes, you can absolutely tighten this in all kinds of way. That doesn't matter where you can move everything basically when and how you want to, but it's easier to learn in what steps you are supposed to do it at the beginning, because when you are working with tension, you cannot do that. So even if it feels like, oh, this is really hard and I can just wiggle it around until I make it look like I want to, do it the hard way. So then we have your 3 starting points. Now we're going to do an 8 knot. An 8 knot is what connects these 3 and make it a square. And that is basically doing the same thing. You make a loop, make sure this is under. This goes under that, and you put this one over there. You will recognize this because this is again a pretzel. It's just that this pretzel has 3 little knots on one corner. So you have the pretzel with this one going under, this one going over, and guess what? Yes, this one is what you are going to weave with. So this one is going under there, like this. And then you have your holes, so down in the hole, up in the hole, and down in the hole. Down in the hole, up in the hole, down in the hole. So basically over, under, and you lock that. And let the other one follow. Over, under, over, and under. And you have your 8 knot. Now when you are working with tent rod, the best part to do this when you tighten this knot is to make sure that you have your center here and that your center is where you want it to be. So put your center here and then you tighten it in steps again. So you basically tighten it a little at a time. This is so you can have, I'm going to show you soon, this is so you can have these two rounds at approximately the same size, so it gets even. If you don't do this, you will risk having a knot that looks like this, and it can be hard to even it out. Don't worry though, if you make a knot that look like this and you can't really manage, you sit there and it's stuck. When you sew this on your garment, you can always, if it looks like this, you can always kind of like fold this over a little bit and it won't show. So you can hide your imperfections when you sew this on your garment. It is possible, but of course it is better to not have to do the double work, so therefore just be careful when you tighten the knot and just do it in steps. It's easier. And remember to keep the ones flat. Now you have learned to do the square, and then you just do squares and squares and squares. You do these ones on that side and you do these ones to connect them. Really, really simple. And then you have your little posament, and you can do basically how long you want to do it. It all depends on how much material you want to use and work with at the same time. When you are working with tent rod and posament, the amount of material in the beginning will be very, very much. When I do a posament for around 20 centimeters, I usually work with around 6 or 7 meters of thread, which I fold in 4. So that will be a lot of material. So choose your own level of pain when you start. And of course, you can also use these knots to make, I'm gonna show you this one. You can also use this one, which is basically this knot. You start with that one, and then you just do this knots, 8 knot, over and over and over, and then you get this one. So it's a versatile knot, and you can also use, you can skip the 8 knot and just do the flowery knots. Just continue to do them, and then you have another trim that is also period and something that has been found. So that's how you do 2 versions of the posaments.